Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into some seriously mind-bending ancient philosophy from Volume 77 of the Mahaprajna Paramita Shastra. This text is a profound commentary attributed to the ancient philosopher Nagarjuna, and we are going to unpack its secrets. We're looking at a radical shift in how we perceive reality, our struggles, and ultimately ourselves. Let's kick things off with a massive existential question that the Buddha and his disciple Subhuti debated at length in our source text. They explored this totally startling premise. If the self we protect every single day and the things we fiercely cling to are actually just illusions, well, what's left? What actually happens to us when the entire foundation of how we see the world is suddenly pulled away? Section 1. The Trap of Ego. Escaping I and mine. Because before we can understand ultimate freedom, we really need to understand the cage we're currently living in. The text points out something fascinating. It says sentient beings wander endlessly through life and death simply because we're completely trapped by our obsession with the ego. As the source states, through the long night, we act entirely on the mind of I and mine. And this creates a huge domino effect. This illusion of self generates defilements, which then generate karma, keeping us totally trapped in a cycle of suffering and rebirth. It's literally the ultimate root of our daily exhaustion. So, if the ego is the root of all our everyday suffering and defilements, how do we actually break out of it? I mean, it's one thing to say, just let go of your ego, right? But actually doing it, that's a whole different story. The Buddha didn't just point out the trap, though. He provided a highly specific escape route. The solution is prajnaparamita, or the perfection of wisdom. And what's really interesting here is how it's defined. It's not some dark, scary void where nothing exists. The Buddha actually compares it to boundless open space. It's this radical, liberating emptiness, completely free from attachments. Think about it. Just like space cannot be cut, burned, or destroyed, a mind that achieves this wisdom simply cannot be disturbed. To reach this state of non-arising, or true emptiness, we have to go through a process of letting go. Phase 1, letting go of form. We have to stop clinging to the physical world, to our bodies, and to the illusion of permanent, solid forms. We really have to realize that the physical things we stress over all day are constantly changing and fundamentally empty of a permanent self. Next, we move deeper inward, because it's not just the physical world we have to let go of. Phase 2 is realizing that even our internal anxieties, our feelings, perceptions, our mental constructs, they're all fundamentally empty too. Our consciousness itself is a changing, flowing thing. It's not a solid me that we need to fiercely defend at all costs. And this brings us to phase 3, which brilliantly illustrates the ultimate paradox of this entire philosophy. True emptiness means we can't even cling to the idea of becoming enlightened. The text explicitly warns that if you think, hey, I'm going to use this wisdom to get supreme enlightenment, you've actually already failed. Why? Because you're still operating with a mind of I wanting to acquire something. True prajnaparamita means letting go of the pursuit itself. Moving on to section 2, the true meaning of merit and going beyond mundane deeds. Let's see how emptiness completely reframes what we consider to be valuable. The text draws a really fascinating contrast here. On one side, it sets up what we might call mundane merit, doing the 10 good deeds, mastering deep meditative states like the 4 jhanas. And don't get me wrong, these are wonderful, deeply positive things. But the Buddha argues they totally pale in comparison to the supreme merit, which is teaching and deeply practicing the perfection of wisdom. To put that into perspective, the Buddha emphatically states that practicing this specific wisdom is hundreds, thousands, literally millions of times greater than any mundane achievement. The text says it's beyond mathematical calculation. Why? Well, because mundane good deeds are still tied to that illusion of the self. They're temporary. But understanding emptiness, that cuts the root of suffering entirely and permanently. I absolutely love this vivid metaphor from the source. The Buddha says a practitioner must guard this wisdom like a desperately poor man who suddenly finds a priceless magical mani jewel, only to lose it again. Just imagine the sheer panic, the absolute obsessive focus that guy would have trying to get it back. That is exactly how fiercely and constantly a practitioner has to hold on to the perfection of wisdom, never letting their mind wander back to the ego. Section 3, overcoming inner demons, facing Mara's traps. Because, no profound spiritual journey is without some major conflict. As we try to grasp this vast emptiness, our ego definitely fights back. Enter Mara. We can basically understand Mara as the personification of our inner demons and psychological roadblocks. When you start making real progress, Mara tries to derail you, using some very specific, highly relatable traps. He plants doubt about whether this wisdom is even real. He surrounds you with bad company to distract you. But his absolute favorite weapons, pride, arrogance, and sparking conflicts with others.
But here is the absolute crucial point. The text warns that if a practitioner ever looks down on someone else and thinks, well, I practice emptiness and you do not have this merit, Mara literally dances with joy. Why? Because the moment you fall into spiritual pride, the second you compare yourself to others, you instantly rebuild that exact same ego, the I and mine, that you were trying so hard to destroy. You've taken the ultimate cure and turned it into just another trap.
Which brings us to Section 4, Companions on the Path, riding the same boat. Let's look at this final and honestly beautiful realization about how we interact with the world once we actually start to grasp emptiness. According to the text, when the Buddhist disciple Ananda asks how practitioners should live together without fighting, the answer is incredibly profound. Instead of fighting or competing, a true practitioner looks at everyone else struggling on the path and realizes, this is my true companion. We are riding in the same boat. We are all navigating the exact same dangerous river of suffering together. We are explicitly instructed here to drop all anger and division. We have to view every single person sharing this journey with the absolute highest reverence, like literally treating them exactly as we would treat the Buddha himself. Because when you truly understand that there's no separate solid self, there is just no room left for hatred, jealousy, or feeling superior. Ultimately, the perfection of wisdom shows us that abandoning the illusion of the self doesn't just leave you empty-handed in some dark void. Instead, it grants you ultimate freedom. By dropping all that heavy baggage of the ego, you unlock a profound, boundless compassion for the entire world. You realize that because nothing is permanently fixed, absolutely everything is wonderfully possible. So as we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with this provocative thought from these ancient sages. If the ego is just a temporary illusion and all the things we fear losing aren't truly ours to begin with, what's holding you back right now? If you drop the I and the mind today, what is left to be afraid of? Thanks so much for exploring this fascinating text with me, and keep questioning the nature of your own reality.